G'day cobbers, welcome back to the bush. In this episode of Lockyards for Driving, we're going old school. That's right, put away your induction cooktops. Hide your jet boils. We're checking out vacuum flasks, whether they be Hydro Flask, Yeti, or like this one from Thermos. We'll be checking out whether pre-chilling works best for keeping stuff cold, whether preheating them works best for keeping stuff hot, and whether half full works just as well as filled right to the top. We'll also be answering that age-old question, so stick around to the end, whether glass works just as well as stainless steel. But first up, let's have a look at their construction. And here's a cross-section of a vacuum flask. Now, obviously in the middle we've got the water, which we're either trying to keep hot or cold, and then we've got the inner shell, which contains the water, stops it from leaking, and we have the vacuum layer, hence the name vacuum flask, and surrounding the vacuum to keep the vacuum contained, of course, is the outer shell, and that's the one that ends up all dinged up when you drop it out of your four-wheel drive. So now we know how they're put together, let's have a look how they actually work, and that's conduction, convection and radiation. Let's check that out now. So now let's have a look at conduction, convection and radiation. This is going to be a Cliff Notes version. So firstly, conduction is a measure of the material's ability to conduct heat. How well it conducts heat, simple as that. Convection is the transfer of heat due to movement of fluids. Now they can either be liquid like water or gaseous like air. And radiation is the emission of electromagnetic waves from materials. Now that might sound like a big mouthful, but you've all seen a FLIR photograph if you've seen any of my videos, and like this one that I've just put down there, and that's it. So now we know the basics, we can start making smart decisions about the materials that we should be looking for next time we're shopping for vacuum flasks. So let's check that out now. So in order to understand thermal conductivity a little bit better, I thought I'd put together a bit of a chart with mediums that you might be transmitting heat or cold through that you'd find in vacuum flasks, and we'll see how well they do or don't conduct heat. Now this is watts per metre Kelvin, but all you basically need to know is the lower the number, the better it is for the flask, the less it's able to conduct heat or cold. So aluminium, 237, stainless steel, substantially less, 16.3. When it comes to polystyrene, like your polystyrene eskies, 0.033, and air is 0.026, so it's actually less than a polystyrene esky. And finally, vacuum. A vacuum isn't able to conduct any heat or cold via conduction at all, and that's why they use it for vacuum flasks. So that's why vacuum flasks work so well. The vacuum itself isn't able to transfer heat very well at all. In fact, the only way you can do it is via thermal radiation. And different materials have different properties as far as how well they can transfer heat via radiation. So let's check that out now. Now, different materials are able to radiate heat energy thermally differently. So these are all polished materials. Now, aluminium, 0.04, the lower the number, the better. Stainless steel in the same ballpark, 0.07, but when we bolster up to glass, 0.09, which is substantially more, and that's why they coat glass vacuum thermoses in shiny aluminium to get the radiation potential down. And finally, plastic, again, 0.09. So now we know stainless steel is a pretty bad conductor of heat, and aluminium is actually a pretty good conductor of heat as far as metals go. But as far as radiation is concerned, across that vacuum, they're pretty much line ball with each other. But don't forget, it joins up the top. The inner joins to the outer up the top. And you'll see that in the FLIR photographs later on in the testing. Speaking of the testing, let's get into that. And here we are, back at the healing bench. So what I've done is I've set up a bit of an overflow tray there and the empty thermos flask there. Now I'll take a FLIR photograph just to show that it's cold and room temperature, and we've got a room temperature of about 21 degrees Celsius here. So I'll put the kettle on and we'll load it up with some hot water. Alright, now our kettle's boiled. I'll fill it up till it overflows. completely chockers. Now I'll put a thermocouple probe through the lid, so I'll just pop that in now. And this is why I've got the overflow. Before we do that though, I'll just take a picture with the thermal camera, see what temperature it's sitting at. Okay, now we'll drop the thermocouple in there. Okay, I'll just plug it into channel 1 here. And it's telling me it's 96.3, so very close to boiling. And we'll set it recording for 24 hours. I'll see you then.
A few moments later.
Okay, time is up. So it's been 24 hours, and we'll throw up a FLIR photograph of the Thermos flask, and you'll be able to see the body here is substantially cooler than the lid. So that's where we're losing all the heat. So I'll turn off the data recorder now. Okay, so we've got a temperature of 63.8 degrees Celsius after 24 hours. That's not too bad in my book. So the Thermos flask is actually working. Now what we'll do is we'll empty it out. We'll fill it up full of piping hot water. We'll leave it for 5 minutes. We'll then turf that out and put in fresh hot water and start for another 24 hours. Okay, so we've emptied out the Thermos flask. I've just freshly boiled the kettle, and we're going to fill it up for the preheat. Right up to the top. And a little bit. Rightio, we'll give it 5 minutes, we'll pitch it out, and I'll take a FLIR photograph so you can have a look how hot it is on the inside in comparison with before with no preheat. So with a 5-minute preheat using boiling hot water, we went from 20 degrees ambient up to 60 degrees internal temperature. So we've raised about 40 degrees Celsius. All right, so the kettle's just boiled. We'll fill it up right to the top again with boiling hot water. There we go. Right at the top. Pop the thermocouple, sorry, back in. Okay, we'll plug the thermocouple back into channel 1. And we've got an internal temperature there of 96.4. So I'll set it recording. Set the timer for another 24 hours countdown, and I'll see you then.
A few moments later.
Okay, time's up. So let's turn off the data recorder. Remember our temperature to beat was 63.8, and it has, but by less than a degree at 64.3. Oh, that's not what I expected at all. Anyway, let's check out the graph. And here's the data graphed up from the data logger. The temperature in degrees Celsius. The hot water is the blue line with no preheat, and the hot water with the preheat up to 60 degrees Celsius or thereabouts is the orange line. And as you can see, it made pretty much no difference from the start to the very end. I'm both angry and disappointed in myself that I have been preheating these things from day dot. Unbelievable. Anyway, on to the next one. Cobbers, with those results, fair dinkum, you could have knocked me over with a feather, I kid you not. I have been preheating these things for decades, I kid you not. And I learnt to preheat them from my mum. Every time we'd go on a picnic or whatever, she'd preheat the vacuum flask. And I spoke to her today and she learnt that from her mother. Turns out all 3 generations were wrong. There's no need to preheat a thermos flask to hold stuff hot. But what about cold? Let's get into the testing. And now for the cold testing. So we'll do a FLIR photograph of the vacuum flask. And as you can see, it's sitting on around about 20 degrees Celsius, a little bit below the ambient in the room here. And we'll fill it up with fridge water. Oh, I'm glad I got the overflow there. And this vacuum flask hasn't been pre-chilled at all. Right, we've overflowed a little bit. Let's put the thermocouple in there. And let's see what temperature we get on the data readout. Okay, that's giving me a temperature of 6.7 degrees. Apparently that's how cold the top of my refrigerator is. Okay. We'll start recording on the data logger and we'll start the timer, the countdown timer, and we'll see you again in 24 hours.
A few moments later.
There we go, and another 24 hours have passed. So let's have a look at our finished temperature. And it's come up at 9.7 degrees. So now we'll get a pre-chilled vacuum flask and we'll give that a go. So for our pre-chill, we've taken our vacuum flask straight out of the freezer overnight, and with the FLIR image there you can see it's sitting at about minus 17 degrees. So now I'll fill it up with fridge water. Oh, I'm not doing a very good job of that. Till she overflows. There we go. And just like the last couple of times, we'll pop the thermocouple probe back in there. Snug it down, pop it back into channel 1. And we've got a temperature there of 5.9 degrees. So let's set the recording going. And we'll get that timer going again. And we'll see you all again in 24 hours.
A few moments later.
And there we go, another 24 hours are up. Let's check out the results. So we'll stop the recorder. Now 9.7 was the temperature to beat, and we've come in at 9.3. We've beaten it, but by less than half a degree Celsius. Well, that's not great. Turns out pre-chilling doesn't work either. But let's graph the results. And again, we got temperature in degrees Celsius up the left hand side here, and the blue line is no pre-chill, and the orange line being the pre-chill. Now the pre-chilled water started off a little bit cooler, less than a degree Celsius, and it pretty much maintained that right from 0 to 24 hours right through. There is no advantage to pre-chilling your vacuum flask. And I've also been doing this for decades. Oh dear. So it turns out I was wrong again. Wrong. Not only have I been preheating these things for naught, I've been pre-chilling them for naught as well. Anyway, what I usually do, and I don't have a lot of confidence now, let me tell you, I usually fill them right up to the top, even if I only know that I want half a flask, thinking that it's going to keep it hotter. So let's check out the results for that. Okay, so this time we're going to do a partial fill. Now this thermos is 1.2 litres or thereabouts, And I've got a bit of a gauge here, so I'm going to put about half in, about 600 or 700 mil, so we're going to leave a decent air gap at the top. Touch more, because we need to make sure, get the probe in. There we go, we're down to about a litre, so we've got about 600 or 700 mil in there. I'll put the probe in. Cinch that down, and we'll pop it in to channel 1. We've got a starting temperature of 94.2, 94.3. There we go, 24 hours. We'll see you then. See how this one works out.
A few moments later.
And the last time we have to wait for 24 hours. Beauty. Anyway, let's check the data recorder. Now it was 63.8. Whoa, hang on. I might have got one right. 55.3 degrees Celsius. Let's graph that up and have a bit of a look. And here we go. Fully filled versus partially filled. And we got a temperature in degrees Celsius running this way, and we got our hours from 0 right through to 24 running this way. Our blue line here is our full flask, and our partially filled flask is our orange line here. Now you can see that our partially filled flask wasn't quite as hot as our fully filled flask, but as you notice, as we get down through the hours, our gap starts to get progressively wider, and that means our partially filled flask isn't working as efficiently as our fully filled flask right through the 24 hours. Now, it's not a major difference, but I'm running with it. I mean, this is 1 out of 3 I've got, so I'm claiming this one as a win. Don't partially fill your flask. Fully fill your flask every time. Okay, if you partially fill it, it's not going to be that bad, but your preference is to fully fill your flask. So it turns out I haven't been wasting my time. Fully filled is better and more efficient than half filled. And now the results you've all been waiting for. Glass versus stainless steel. Let's check it out. So here we are. The final word between old school glass and newer school stainless steel. Now I didn't data log these two because, well, this flask isn't mine and I didn't want to drill a hole in the top. But what we'll do is we'll take the lids off after being filled with boiling hot water 12 hours ago, completely to the top. We'll pop the probes in and we'll see our results. Turn the temperature reader on. There we go. Stainless steel, 81. The old school glass, here's a surprise, 66.5. The stainless steel did considerably better. Now I'll pop up a FLIR photograph of these two, and as you can see on the right hand side, the whole top part of the glass thermos is warm, a lot warmer and more surface area than the warm part of the stainless steel thermos. So obviously that's where we were losing our heat. Well, I did hear the glass was better, but I think that's been busted and thrown out. Stainless steel's the choice out of the two, and that's what I'll be using from here on in, and I assume you will too. And here we are, new school versus old school. The stainless steel versus glass. Again, here we are in degrees Celsius, and this is after only 12 hours, not 24 hours like the other ones, but we can see a substantial difference between the two. Stainless steel, finishing temperature 81.1, the glass 66.3. And there was an 18% difference between the two, to the stainless steel obviously. So, in this comparison at least, stainless steel is by far the better choice. So it turns out the stainless steel ones do work better than the old school glass thermally. And not only that, they're more robust and they're not going to break in the back of your four-wheel drive on corrugated roads. Righto guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode, or maybe even learned a thing or two. I know I certainly did. And that is, the new old school is better than the old school. Anyway guys, if you like this video, don't forget to give it the old thumbs up. And if you didn't, by all means, give it a thumbs down. Not once, not thrice, but twice. Thanks guys. We'll see you in the next one. So if you've enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell icon. It's really important to us and you won't miss out on our future content. Now, if you want to support the channel, by all means, consider becoming a patron on Patreon and you get things like early access to our videos on YouTube. Either way, we hope to see you out on the tracks.